When you're new to conventions, meeting a guest for the first time can be a bit awkward. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about ways to do that.
And kind of what to expect if it's your first time. When you go to a convention, there's several different ways to actually meet some of the guests that will be joining you. And it varies convention to convention, but there's a few things that are kind of similar across all of them. And one of those is most guests will have either a panel or maybe like a meet and greet kind of session where they're talking to the guests directly.
Yeah, and this is a great place. This is where you should get your questions answered, hopefully, depending on the lines. Because if they're a popular guest, it may be difficult getting into the panel, let alone ask a question. But hopefully somebody else will have your question and you'll be there and you'll still learn a lot from all the questions.
And usually you can take pictures of the guests. I mean, you're sitting in an audience, they're usually at the front of the room, so you have a little bit more freedom to do that. And especially, it's a little impersonal, but if you're nervous about, meeting somebody one-on-one, it's a great opportunity to actually, ask them a question.
Yeah, and if you don't mind speaking in front of a group, you can be up there asking a question, but if you're shy, you can always just sit there and enjoy.
The other thing that happens a lot is they will have autograph sessions where you can actually meet the guests one-on-one and maybe get something that you have or signed.
Yeah, and now you want to check the rules on autograph sessions before you get to the convention. Some conventions, especially the large ones, will have ticketing systems. The smaller ones, when you're at a few hundred people, it's usually just free for all.
And it kind of depends on the genre of convention here. I feel like when you get to an anime convention and you're talking about voice actors, usually, autographs tend to be free. You usually have a little bit more time. If you're going to a sci-fi convention and you have some of the big name guests like TV actors, a lot of times they're going to charge you for an autograph and you might be a little more limited with the interaction you can have with the guest.
Yeah, and the amount they charge depends on who the guest is. If you're looking at somebody who's in one episode of Star Trek, maybe it's $25. But if you're looking for William Shatner, it's over $100.
Yeah, so it definitely, their name recognition has some value on that.
And it's helpful to bring something appropriate. Make sure if you're bringing a DVD, make sure that the actor you're having sign it was actually in the show. And I've actually seen this happen where somebody brings something that somebody wasn't in, and it just creates a really awkward situation. If you don't have anything, program guides work great.
You carrying them around anyway. I mean, they're appropriate for the convention. Almost every guest will sign a program guide or a flyer. A lot of times guests will actually sell headshots or maybe a poster from their series at the table where they're signing them. So that might be an option too if you don't mind spending a few extra dollars for those.
But don't ask them to sign body parts.
No boob signing, none of that.
Many guests won't for a variety of reasons. So just
don't embarrass yourself.
Don't.
There also could be rules about taking photos with the guests. Sometimes when you go get the autograph, you might feel like, oh, can I just have a quick photo with you? Some might be more accommodating about that, but others have strict rules against it.
Yeah. And also at the autograph session, keep in mind that there's people behind you who are also waiting. And this is your big chance to meet them, but really you get less than a minute. And you can't stand there and take up everybody's time because they're fans just like you.
Yep, and there might be a limited amount of time they have to sign autographs, so if you're in the back of the line and somebody's hogging up the time, they don't get to all those people.
Now, when you're around the convention, you may also run into guests just milling about. And that's a great time to go up and talk to them.
That's a lot of fun. And some guests are better at this than others.
Yes.
Some really enjoy kind of hanging out at the convention, maybe hanging out in the lobby and interacting with the guests, where others are maybe less comfortable with that and they'll tend to stay in their hotel room and only go around to their assigned events.
Yeah, but if you see them and they're just hanging out and enjoying something, just go right up to them. If they're eating, or if they're busy trying to get somewhere, it's probably best to leave them alone.
Right, but if they're hanging out talking, you can kind of tell. Just go up and start a conversation.
Just don't be Captain Linger and stay longer than you should.
So once you know that there are going to be guests there and you've decided you want to meet them, it kind of helps to plan ahead.
Yeah.
One of the things you want to do is do some of your research. Find out when you're going to a convention who's going to be there and kind of what events they're going to be participating in. Are they doing panels? Are they doing autograph sessions? What are they going to be available for? Yeah,
and also look in the program guide, read their bios, or go and look online and see what credits they have. You may not realize until you get home, wait, that was the guy that did this voice? And so, yeah, definitely look that up.
And it's happened to me, even with famous actors. I didn't realize they were in other things. Other things you want to do, come up with questions in advance. You know, you can also research some of the common questions they've had a million times that, you know, if you ask it, everyone's going to groan and be like, why is they asking this again? But it gives you some time to kind of come up with something really interesting to say.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people say, oh, they don't have a question. So they'll say, oh, can you do this line from this show? Or can I have a hug? Those are groaners. I mean...
Yeah. It's one thing if you're meeting them one-on-one, I guess, if you really want to say a hug, or I love you so much, or you're so awesome. But if you're doing a big panel event, nobody wants to hear 50 people go up and say, I love you, you're awesome. They know they're loved. The other thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with what the schedule is for what they're going to be at and where it's located. Because a lot of times there is a long wait, especially if they're a popular guest. You want to get there early and you want to know where you're going if you want to get in.
And so... Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, the other thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want to have too high of an expectation for this interaction. Sometimes people, you know, they may have kind of a hero worship for a certain individual, and then they meet them and they get disappointed.
Yeah, especially if they're signing, if they get a huge autograph line, they may have to get through it by the deadline, so they can't stand there or sit there and chat with you for 15 minutes and be your best buddy. I mean, everybody wants that. So.
You kind of have to have a low expectation almost. You go, I'm really excited just to meet them. If you start out with that and maybe prepare one comment that you want to say to them, you'll be great. And some people will surprise you with how friendly and awesome they are. We've all had that experience. And then when somebody's not really that into it, well, you're not disappointed because that's all you expected to get.
Yeah. No, if you're nervous, that's fine. Everybody's nervous meeting an idol or talking with people for the first time. So...
And they expect that. And sometimes the best thing to say is, I'm really nervous. And you know, a lot of times they're used to that. They'll put you right at ease, be like, don't even worry about it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
The other thing you want to do is, if you do get nervous, you might want to write down the question you want to ask. You don't want to get in that line and have it all in your head, and then the microphone gets up to you and you go, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. And if you are too nervous to ask the question, if you have a friend, you can say, here, ask this.
Or even the guy sitting next to you. They might not have any problem talking in front of people, but they just don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can make friends that way. The other thing you want to do is, if you're too nervous to meet them one-on-one, again, try the larger events, because if you don't want to participate, you can sit back and enjoy seeing them up close in person, but you don't physically have the pressure of having to talk to them directly.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I mean, even if you end up being disappointed with the guest, just say thank you, be nice and courteous, and...
Yep, thank you for your time, and that's all you really need to do, and you still get to meet them. You know, that's really the big thing. And also remember, they're people too. They have bad days. They get grouchy. They get hungry. They, you know, and they're also can be wicked friendly and really nice and totally excited to meet you. You know, even though they don't know you from Adam. You know, you'll be totally surprised. They're just regular people like everybody else.
And hopefully it goes well for you, and you meet your idol and have fun.
Yeah, meet some really cool people.